and that's an interesting story there on page 20 of the Punch. We don't really have much story on the Punch newspaper for the morning, and other relating stories there that you would love to read. All right, let's move forward to the Tribune newspaper. Let's see the stories, the interesting stories we have on the Tribune newspaper. We seem to have a lot of stories on the Tribune newspaper for the morning. Let's dive into it. We have 2027. Politics won't affect my job as FCT Minister, WIZKID says. And that's on page 8. And on page 5, we have Nigerian to overtake Algeria as Africa's third largest economy. And that's on page 5 if you want to know whether that is true or not. And we have death row rises as bandit keys caught in Kwara. And that's on page 24 of the Tribune newspaper for the morning. We also have Senate passes electoral bill, rejects mandatory e-transmission of results. And it's another interesting story you have there on page 3 of the Tribune newspaper for the morning that you would love to read. I will also have monumental loss behind shutdown of refineries, NNPC, and that's on page 6. And we have Nigeria economy records 55.7 points expansion in economic activity, and that's on page 5 of the the Tribune newspaper for the morning. We have exciting story, and that is on health. On page 2, we have salt in drinking water may rise blood pressure. On page 2, that's an interesting health story that you would want to read on the Tribune newspaper for the morning, and that's on page 2 of the Tribune newspaper. All right, moving forward to the Vanguard newspaper for the morning. Let's see the exciting stories we have on the Vanguard newspaper for the morning. All right, first story we have on the Vanguard, we have Christian genocide. U.S. Congress urges stricter action on global religious freedom, and that's on page 8 of the Vanguard. We also have Electoral Act. Senate passes bill rejects mandatory electronic transmission of results. And it's an interesting one about politics you want to know about this morning on the Vanguard newspaper, and that's on page 7 of the Vanguard newspaper. We really do not have much story on the Vanguard for the morning, and other stories that you would want to read. All right, let's move to the Guardian newspaper for the morning. Let's see what we have here. On the Vanguard newspaper for the morning, we have concerns over fresh killing in Kwara and Katsina. That's a big story on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper for the morning. It's an interesting one there that you want to read on the Guardian newspaper for the morning. And moving forward to the last newspaper for the morning, the Nation's newspaper. Let's see the stories we have on the Nation's newspaper. We have INEC to clean up vote register before 2027 poll. INEC to clean up voter register before 2027 polls. It's an interesting one, and that's on page 3. And we have Wema Bank funded $500 million meters to be given out free, says BPE, and that's on page 7 of the Nations. And we have 78 buried in Kwara community after terror attack, and that's a big one there, and that's on page 47 of the Nation's newspaper for the morning. It's a sad one there, a story that you would want to read. And on page 2, the big story, we have Senate rules out real-time results transfer. Senate rules out real-time result transfer. It's about politics that you want to read on the Nation's newspaper for the morning. And one of the stories we have here, we have His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, sends golden facilitation to Matthew Wega Tolika. And that is another story that you would want to read. We have the story on all the newspaper for the morning, and it's an interesting story. And that story you would also find on page 2 of every newspaper headlines that we've read out to you for the morning. Alright, like I said, we're not going to take much of your time, and that is the much newspaper we can bring to you this morning from IDEA Television. And from here, I'm going to say thank you for watching. I am Mary Ojumajo.